The Repast Podcast may include detailed discussions about death, the human body after death, and the medical process and may be sensitive or disturbing to some listeners and viewers. Our goal is to educate and inform with respect and care. We encourage listener and viewer discretion, especially for younger audiences or those who may find these topics emotionally challenging. Welcome back to the Repast Podcast. If you caught part one, you know we talked about the dollars and cents of funeral costs, unexpected fees, and how families prepare financially. Now in part two, we're diving deeper into what comes next: estate planning, legacy decisions, and how it all ties into the bigger story of generational wealth. Let's get into it.
Now we've talked a little bit about probate court and the troubles about that and how we want to avoid that as much as possible. But speak about some of the other things that families don't understand about estate planning. That, you know, when you're speaking with a family on the phone or with a consultation and they say, well, we didn't know we could have done this before, and they could have.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. I mean, I think broadly it's the misconception about the process in general. People hear the word estate planning, and I wish sometimes we could just change it and call it something else, right? Because they hear the word estate and they think that means I have to be rich, right? So people will constantly say, oh, I'm gonna come see you, but when I get this, or I gotta get my weight up, or I don't have much, or my favorite one is I don't have an estate. If you have a penny, you have an estate. That's just what's in your estate is that penny. So I think broadly the misconception about what you have to do the planning is probably the bigger issue. But a lot of times from both perspectives, we talked about powers of attorney. Folks will call and go, mama's in a coma, I need to be able to get access to this, or they want to transfer mama to this facility and they're asking, do I have power of attorney? Like, that's my mom. I don't understand why I need that. And then if the facility is serious and sticking to their guns, then we have to go to court and get guardianship. That's a public proceeding that can last sometimes, even if people aren't fighting over who should be guardian, right? And so we could have solved that easily by getting a power of attorney, right? And then obviously all the things that come along when somebody passes away, when folks will go, well, I didn't know that if mom, but she had a will, why does the bank account have to go to probate court? And in Michigan, how it works, in a lot of states, but Michigan specifically, it doesn't matter what you have. If you have an asset in your name alone with no beneficiary or joint owner, it has to go to probate. There are no exceptions. Like, there are people like, but, we can do this all day. There are no exceptions. Even if she did have her wishes written down, even if she pulled a Aretha Franklin and was pulling it out the couch, I'm mad because it was admitted to court, and those are valid in Michigan. Handwritten wills can be valid. Even if it was written down, though, folks always have a problem. I don't understand. Why do we have to go to probate court for this bank account? Had we come in and sat down and planned, I would have asked you, who's on this bank account with you? Is there a transfer on death designation? Okay, let's make sure to do this so that if something happens, we don't have to go to probate court for one bank account. That is what we are in court most for: houses and bank accounts.
And it's a shame because a lot of families have such little money in the bank account where it makes no sense to go through probate because you're going to spend more money or as much just to get this little bit out. So it really
100%.
It makes no sense.
I have that conversation on a regular basis. I'll tell the person, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know based on, because obviously if they don't have access, we don't know for sure. They may have found the last bank statement that came to the house or something, and they'll call and go, oh, well, there's money left in Comerica Bank. And you go, oh, okay, well, how much are we talking? Oh, maybe about $2,000. And I'll go, oh, well, by the time we start this process, and then there is a small estates procedure in Michigan, so if the assets are below a certain amount, you don't have to do, I'll call it full-blown probate, but it still is a process. We got to get proof that y'all have been paid, right? Because they're not cutting no check, no signing no order for nothing if you did not pay the undertaker. So as they say. So you have to prove that the final funeral home bill has been paid, provide a death certificate, and then the court will generate an order of assignment, assigning whatever the property is. But unless it's a surviving spouse or a minor child, there is a 63-day period where you can be responsible for creditors. Because the way probate works is you can't take money out of an estate and not satisfy debt, you know? So that's the other thing. So when I was talking to the last person that called and we were talking about it, I said, based on what's in the bank and the things that the bills that you've been seeing come to the house, I don't want you to go out the world backwards. Because by the time you retain our office, we start this process. If you get access to the money, a creditor might pop up, you know? So it may not be worth it in the end.
Yeah. Does the power of attorney and the medical directive, can that be the same? Should that be the same person?
Wonderful question. It depends on who your people are. So if Bobby is not good with money, he absolutely should not be both. And we know that because you know Bobby. You know how he always has been. And if Bobby filed for bankruptcy 4 times, he should not be managing your assets. So even though you love him and you may feel a little guilty or you may think he might be mad at you if you don't name him, you've got to name who's going to do the job. So some folks are blessed enough to have both. You have the person that you trust with your healthcare decisions. They're also good with money so they can manage your finances. A lot of folks don't. Some folks have no family members who they think can do the job, or they may think they can do the job, but they know they just can't trust them. So that's when they start naming neighbors or friends from church or, you know, people from, you know, years that you've known for years and you think, hey, they might do a better job. We're starting to see a new trend with people naming professionals over their finances as opposed to people in the family. If you feel like there's somebody like, I know their heart is in the right place, but they can't manage money. So I need not name them.
And on the avenue of creating a legacy. So with our funeral home and our family, we're 106 years old.
Awesome.
And that's kind of what I hope we can get more people in our community to see of how big of the work that you do now, how you can create a legacy for generations from now that you won't even be a thought. Or maybe you will be a thought because you're the one that created it.
You set it up.
Exactly.
I hope they're thinking about you.
Exactly. But what's kind of that stepping stone, whether you're just getting out of college, whether you're just trying to make a hustle on the streets and build something up for yourself, where do you start to kind of create that legacy? And what's the most important thing to do kind of first out the gate?
Yeah, protect it, right? So we tell people all the time, even if you started your ice cream business and maybe it only started as something you're turning it in your basement and, you know, let's imagine this is going to be the multi-million-dollar business one day that you want to be able to pass down to your kids. We have to plan for that. Another thing we have to go to probate court for is business interest. People may set up their business, they have their sole bank account with just them on it. And if they pass away, you got to go to probate to get access to that, deal with the business debts, deal with all those things. So I would say whatever you start, plan for it today, but then also be forward thinking. You don't want to wait, right? So I think a lot of times, whether it's real estate that folks, because that tends to be, real estate and businesses tend to be the ones where people will go, I want this to be an option for generations. And in steps those trusts that we talked about. You can put provisions to say, okay, this person will do this. If they're doing this, they can receive this. They have to do this to keep the business going. This is how I foresee this going. You have to be this to stay in the house or use the house, right? I have clients that set up trusts that have sort of like education funds. So if somebody in the family wants to go to college or maybe they want to start a trade or a business, they can pull down off the pot to do that. Or maybe if there's an investment they want to invest into. So just start to think as you're starting out. Obviously, you may not have the irrevocable trust and the revocable trust starting off. Start off with what it looks like today, and then that's why you stay in touch with us so that we can plan for that legacy as time goes along.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jehan. I appreciate you being here. This has been perfect. Let's dive into the book.
Yes, yes.
Let's dive into the book here. We've got A Matter of Life and Death.
Yes, we do.
Let's jump into it.
Yes, we do.
Let's see what would be an excerpt that you have to share. You've got to just share it.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, it's just all. Listen.
How many chapters are in the book?
So there are 9 chapters in the book. And the way that the book is set up, again, there's short stories explaining a scenario. Okay. So somebody, obviously no one in here planned. So that's why we're here. And so there were myths circulating about what would happen, right? And so essentially it's the short stories that explain what happens and it reads it's juicy, right? And then you get to the end of the chapter and it says, what could have avoided this? So if it's a power of attorney or if it's a trust or if it's a certain type of deed or something like that. That's what we do at the end of the chapter to tell you this does not have to be your family. So off the top of my head, I think the one, and I don't even have to look because I can quote the line. But this actually has happened, and obviously everything in the book is loosely based on real life things. Nothing is any real client or anything of that sort, but it's things that we've heard. But there was a story about a man who passed away. Before he passed away, he wasn't married, never had kids. His parents were gone because I think he was about 70 or so. Was aging, getting older. He stayed in touch with 2 of his nieces. So one niece lived here, the other lived out of state, and she helped him out as he was getting older. He didn't have powers of attorney, so he got dementia. Then we had to go to probate court, get guardianship and conservatorship. And then he died 2 months after we got the conservatorship. So now we have to open up a probate estate. The full-blown probate is what I call it. Well, because he didn't have a will, right, to leaving things to his nieces, the state dictates what happens with his stuff. So his siblings are who step in to receive his property. And if a sibling predeceased him, their kids. So there were like 27 heirs by the time we got done with this. And these are people that either had never met him before or hadn't seen him since they were little kids. And these are people that are good and grown, right? Have their own adult children. And so it ended up just being a complete fiasco, as you can imagine, with 20-something different people across the country, calling in and trying to figure out what's happening. And the funniest thing was one person calling in saying, we're just trying to figure out when we're going to wrap things up because I need to get my teeth done.
No.
Okay, sis, I'm not mad. We want nice teeth are important.
Boy.
So I'm not mad, but it's just like you sit there like, is this happening right now? This is happening. This was a niece that I don't even think the gentleman, I don't think he trying to figure, they all, of course, become internet researchers, right? So they're like, I looked at the house. It looks like it's worth so-and-so. We're like, oh my goodness. And of course, that's not what he would have wanted, right? What he would have wanted was for the niece that took care of him and her sister, because she would still, stay in touch. That's who we presume he would have wanted to have his property. But because he didn't plan, his stuff got split up between 20-something folks. You know what I mean? So that's just one example of the types of things that go on.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So good stories and education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell everybody who's listening, anybody's watching on YouTube, tell them where they can pick up a copy of your book.
Yeah, so the book is on sale through a few different sources. My website, which is my name, JehanCrumpGibson.com, no hyphen, but Amazon has it, Barnes & Noble has it, Goodreads has it, pretty much anywhere that you can get books online will have it. So some of those sources will only have ebooks. Some of them have paperback and ebooks. I'm a paper girl. I still gotta touch and turn pages, but a lot of folks love their Kindles and their tablets and stuff, of things of that sort. So those are the places
Antonio, is it true that a person who dies with no one to claim them is buried by the state?
So it depends on the state you're in. In some states, the county medical examiner or coroner's office will sign off for cremation, where the body can be cremated if it's unclaimed. Some states or some counties, you don't have that option, and you will have to bury the body. Some counties have what they call potter's fields, what they used to call it, where they're not of one field, it's an individual grave, but they're low-cost cemeteries where unclaimed bodies can be buried. So it does depend on where you're at, but most states will have provisions in place that unclaimed bodies can find a resting place.
All right. And think of that Potter's Field. You brought that up. That's I'm just thinking of Halloween. I was doing I was really involved in the asylum during Halloween. So I was really, it really tweaked me because, I was really looking at Eloise and what's up with Eloise? And sure enough, they have that Potter's Field. That's where they're finding and uncovering all these graves that are right next to Eloise. I'm still on the property. India, is it true that when you pre-plan a funeral, you're prepaying for that funeral and it locks in the price forever?
Yes. So if you have a irrevocable pre-arrangement, then that means that if you make arrangements back in 2012, whatever that price was then When you come back now for an at-need service, which means that a passing has occurred and now we are actively making arrangements for your loved one, that price you're locked into back to what you paid for in 2012.
Now, Jehan, is it true that only a lawyer can draw up a will?
It is not true. So you can, and I mentioned earlier, we talked about handwritten wills. They're called holographic wills in Michigan. That's just a fancy word. That's job security for me, I guess. But it's handwritten. It's handwriting. So you can handwrite your own will, and if you sign it, it's amazing if you can get a neighbor or somebody to witness it, or something like that. But if you sign it, it can be honored. And that's exactly, I mentioned Aretha Franklin earlier. That's exactly what happened. There was a whole jury trial, but at the end of it, that last will that they found, the second one that was in the couch that had been handwritten, it was admitted, and her real estate is being divided up according to it. Now, so you don't have to have a lawyer, but sometimes those things will get you in trouble because when you're writing your wishes down, obviously you don't have legal expertise to know the implications behind some words. And maybe you're only focusing on the house, the jewelry, and the cars, but you forget to mention other assets. And so that stuff might be subject to what state law says happens to them, right? Depending on what the language is. So you do not have to have a lawyer, but beware. At minimum, I tell folks, just at least get a consult, right? Even if you don't want to pay the full price to come in and get your whole estate plan done, at least do a consult so that if you decide to do the handwritten thing, we got you in the best possible shape with that handwritten will.
Now jump back to talking about all the craziness that goes on. A lot of families think, well, no, once my loved one passes away, all their debt is gone. That was their debt. Now, I don't have anything to do with that. So now that that's over with, I'm good to go. Break the news to them.
Yes, let me lay it on them.
Right.
Flat out. So you are not personally responsible for your loved one's debt, obviously, unless you co-signed on it, right? So if you co-signed on a car or a house or whatever, then yes, that's your debt too. And now you're welcome. This is you. But if you did not, you're not personally responsible, but the estate is responsible. So you can't ignore, you can't say, well, that's mama's house and I'm taking it and I'm gonna just deed it to myself. And there are all these debts floating around, right? Especially if it's secured debt. A lot of people don't understand also that if there's a home equity line or a mortgage still on the property, you can't just take it and act like it didn't exist, right? You have to either assume that loan, pay it off, and it's really gonna depend on the lender, what they make you do. There could be medical bills, and the way the state ranks who gets paid first, right? In terms of things that people can come after. If your loved one was in a facility getting Medicaid services, Medicaid files liens against estates. You better believe Medicaid, they're gonna get their money before you walk away with cash sitting around. So even though you're not personally responsible, if you want the assets in the estate, you can't ignore the debts.
Oh,
it's juicy, man.
Yes. You can't put a price on this, on this here. So as we get ready to wrap things up, we always give a fun fact as well. And the fun fact that was researched for us today is that in some places in Asia, after a person dies, their body is dropped over a cliff. The belief is that the body will be caught by the gods who will then escort them to the afterlife.
Wow.
So that gives our interesting cultural changes. You know, it's always an interesting thing to see what happens all around the world.
100%.
And on that note.
Right.
Yeah. What's the bottom of that cliff look like?
Right.
Well,
my brain is like, so then when it happens, where do we go from there?
We're gonna see now wherever that comment came from. That's what we're gonna have in the Google next. Is Google Earth pictures of the bottom of the cliff, because you can find just about anything now on Google Earth or different images.
True.
It goes for a long way.
I hope I do not go down a rabbit hole after this.
Because that will make you inquiring minds.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Once again, I want to thank Jehan Crump-Gibson. I want to thank India Ramsey for being with us today. My brother Antonio as a co-host. And on our next episode, we're going to be touching on the emotional toll that you go through during funeral work. So please, once again, submit your questions. We're going to try to answer every single one that we get. Comment, like, and subscribe, whatever you're watching us on or listening to us on. Please like and subscribe. We'll keep bringing these episodes to you, and let us know what you want to hear. We're here for you. We're here to help you. So let us know what you want to hear. Once again, as always, whether you're in service and grief or curious, we're here to walk with you every step of the way. Join us next time on the Repast Podcast.